master your craft and play with what you're mastering. And those two will come together across time. And now and then you'll produce a poetic piece, deeply storied and metaphoric, that isn't a piece of propaganda. And then you'll have succeeded as an artist, at least in that instance. And then maybe you'll be able to do that over and over. Dr. Peterson, as an art student, I wonder how to create a poetic piece, deeply storied and metaphoric, without becoming a piece of propaganda. I feel like trying too hard to create a meaningful and poetic piece often results in the creation of something rife with bias and ideology. However, letting my unconscious take full control creates what seems like an empty and uninteresting piece. Is there a method to control that chaos without corrupting its meaning while still expressing it poetically? For the time being, I decided to concentrate on learning good technique. Well, the first thing I would say is that is what you should be doing as a student, is you should be concentrating on learning good technique, because those are the tools that you're going to have to express your creative intuition. So that's a great place to start. And you said you're a student, so, well, you're not a master, you're a student. So of course you're going to wonder how to create a poetic piece without becoming a piece of propaganda. You're going to be struggling with that your entire artistic career. You know, and you might say, well, the more tools you have at your disposal, the more opportunity you have to produce something of value. And so great that it's the right answer to the problem. Well, then, trying too hard. I think a lot of what artists do is play. And so I remember watching this video of Pablo Picasso creating a painting on a piece of glass so you could see exactly what he was doing. And he'd paint and erase and paint and erase and paint and erase. And he was just playing and watching what was happening constantly. And he was sort of seeing what would happen, but he was very disciplined. I mean, he had all the tools at hand, right? I mean, he'd gone through his apprenticeship. And so master your craft and play with what you're mastering. And those two will come together across time. And now and then you'll produce a poetic piece, deeply storied and metaphoric, that isn't a piece of propaganda. And then you'll have succeeded as an artist, at least in that instance. And then maybe you'll be able to do that over and over. So don't try so hard. That's part of it, perhaps. That doesn't mean don't discipline yourself with regard to broadening your skill set. That's really a good idea. But then you have to bring the spirit of play into that, and the spirit of discovery, and trying too hard. And then when you say you're trying too hard, what are you trying too hard to do? You know, that might be worth thinking about too. Are you trying too hard to produce a high quality piece of art? Well, maybe that's not the right goal. Maybe the right goal is something like, I'm going to play with these new skills that I've developed and see what happens. I mean, Picasso, for example, there's an online archive of Picasso's work. And, you know, when he was painting roosters, he painted hundreds of them. I think Picasso produced 60,000 paintings, some outrageous number of paintings. And they were by no means all masterpieces, although perhaps that's cynical. There were plenty of masterpieces, that's for sure. And so I'm not saying this in a denigrating fashion. You could see Picasso approaching a masterpiece in his repeated attempts to represent, say, something like a rooster. You know, represent it this way, represent it this way, represent it this way, producing multitudes of variants, and then, you know, honing in on the ultimate goal, or being able to select from all those variants the optimal representation. Playing hard, playing in a disciplined fashion, playing with the tools that he had. And that's part of letting the unconscious in, right? Is to let the process of play take you where it's going to go. And maybe you have to abandon the idea of producing the finished piece of art, or at least you have to abandon the idea of producing it on that occasion. Because art is a process of exploration, right, as well.